Hey guys, so before we start this video, I just want to let you guys know that I actually just wanted to talk about Train to Busan. But then after doing some research, I actually found out there were two other movies based in the same universe as Train to Busan. And I figured since I've been doing a lot of franchises all month long, I figured, you know what, why not do a franchise review of all of the Train to Busan movies? Just talk about what they're like and see where this franchise has been. And yeah, so just want to let you guys know that because the first couple minutes of this video, I'm just talking about Train to Busan, and I thought that was just going to be the whole video, so that's why it may look a little unusual. But still, just want to let you guys know that. Let's get on with the video now. Hey guys, I'm the Nostalgia Kid. I remember it, and you should too. Okay, so today I'm talking about the movie Train to Busan. Now, this movie came out back in 2016, but still, I really want to talk about it. It's been a movie that's kind of been on, I guess I could say, my personal watch list for quite a while now, and decided to finally sit down, give myself the time to watch it. And, well, here's what I think about Train to Busan. This movie, Train to Busan, starts off relatively normal. Well, not really. Well, relatively normal for a zombie movie. You have a handful of like hints and nods that ooh, there may be a zombie outbreak happening. Ooh, it may have something to do with this one company. And then from there, it kind of feels like it's trying to be a slightly different movie, if that makes any sense. It's like they're really blending a lot of different things together, and I feel like it works really well. Okay, now if you're wondering what I mean by like blending things together, all I mean is that you really, at the core of this, is a very heartfelt story about a father struggling with the whole work life balance. On one hand, he's very busy working some kind of business job. I want to say something in finance and trying to take care of his young daughter, and also who is also dealing with both his divorce from her mother and just like keeping up with work and just it's a very heartfelt story and a very interesting story, and I feel like the characters throughout the movie really are representatives of like who he could potentially become and who he would like to be. Now, yes, this is a zombie movie at the end of the day, but at very least it is a very heartfelt story if you really pay attention to the story elements, which is very easy to do. Just because the story elements are definitely the quiet sections in between all the zombie killing people action that happens throughout this movie. Now, what exactly is Train to Busan about? Okay, so yeah, basically, Train to Busan is just about a father taking his daughter to Busan for her birthday. Her mother lives there just so that way they can celebrate as a family, even though, like I've already said, the father and mother are currently divorced. But then, obviously, a zombie attack happens, and they now have to survive on this train for the remainder of the trip while zombies are on there. There's a number of times where the government and the train operators try to stop the train at stops where they believe are safe, and then everything goes to hell from there. So now that's basically the entire movie from there. They're just trying to survive on this train and make it somewhere that is relatively safe. And and if that was all I had to say, then that's all I had to say. But still, no, like I said, there are characters in this movie that definitely represent the father in one degree over another. There's an older businessman on the train who would obviously be an older representation of the father. He very obviously doesn't have a family or is very disconnected from his family. He's obsessed with just making sure his business is okay and he's okay. In fact, a number of times he almost literally throws people off a train or into zombies just to save his own, just to save himself. Then you have another character who is obviously a representation of what the father would like to be more of, and that is an attentive husband or father in this case. Even though he's not technically a father yet, his wife is pregnant. Uh, but also, the same character actually goes out his way to help other people and is trying to save as many people on this train as he can, and even actually winds up sacrificing himself all to save the remainder of the train and his pregnant wife. Then there's actually some side characters who are on the younger side. I want to say late teens, early 20s, who I guess you could say could represent him and his wife when they were younger, back when they were like together and they were a lot more loving, and just when they were beginning to be a couple. And then maybe those side characters that I just talked about, maybe those characters like dying represents the death of his relationship and how he could have potentially done more to save their relationship. That's at least what I could extrapolate from these little characters. Well, that's just about all I have to say about Train to Busan. A relatively straightforward zombie movie in a lot of ways. It's definitely good. It definitely has its own place in the category. Um, and it's definitely worth watching. But I'm also a person where, as far as I'm concerned, every zombie movie out there is worth watching. At least once. But still, I definitely say give Train to Busan a watch. It's free on Hulu, it's free on Amazon Prime, and yeah, just watch it. Okay, so the next movie we're talking about in the Train to Busan franchise is Seoul Station. This is a CGI animated movie that takes place, I want to say, around the same time as Train to Busan, or at least very close in like time proximity to Train to Busan. I want to say probably within a day or two of the original movie. So, what is Soul Station about? Well, basically, it's just showing you a slightly different perspective of this zombie outbreak that's happening in Korea. Only it shows you on the streets of the cities rather than people being confined in a train. And it's very interesting. The biggest downside that I'm gonna have to ding this movie for, I'm gonna say it right away, is that it is CGI animated, and honestly, some of the CGI and some of the animation feels very janky and really just, I don't know, really rough in my opinion. But at the same time, this movie actually released very close in proximity to Train to Busan. It actually wouldn't surprise me if it actually came out at the same time as Train to Busan, as probably some kind of promotional thing, or maybe some kind of like, basically some kind of direct to DVD thing. Basically, it's like when it's a little bit like how there'll be a movie, it'll come out to DVD, and it'll be like, hey, check out this other little thing we did, and it'll be like produced by the same people. It'll just feel like a little spin-off idea that is supposed to, I guess, connect the movie possibly to another movie, or just expand out the universe a little bit more. Kind of like how they did the Animatrix, or there was that one animated Chronicles Riddick movie. Somewhat similar to that. But yeah, this time around, they're just showing the chaos and the insanity that was ensuing on the city streets of Korea, and how people are surviving. Also, I want to say this movie is taking a far more political stance um, in the franchise, showing the income inequality and how difficult some people have it. I mean, heck, one of the main characters um, was actually a prostitute prior to the events of this movie. It just really focuses and shows a very heavy-handed approach to the whole income inequality, talking about homeless people, and even talking about like, oh, what sector are you from, what neighborhood are you from, kind of thing, and really just really heavily emphasizes on just inequality. I mean, I mean, I feel like it's very relevant, especially with things that are happening today, both in Korea and in America. And to anybody who doesn't know, South Korea is actually has a very large economy. I believe I actually looked it up before I did this video, and they're actually the fourth largest economy in the world. And obviously, they must have their own struggles with homelessness and income inequality, somewhat similar to what's happening here in America. The only real difference is that, I'm not going to downplay South Korea's homeless or income inequality situation, but still, the only reason why it would be bigger here in America is just because we're a far larger country. You could literally Google it, and we're roughly 6 times bigger population wise than South Korea. So that's the only reason why I would say that America has it a little bit worse than South Korea, just because we're a far bigger country. And I believe that there's all kinds of numbers you can find out there, but still, don't want to get too political here. Also, Seoul Station has some pretty insane twists and turns near the end of the movie, just because the main character, I forget her name, and even if I could remember her name, it's a Korean name, and I cannot pronounce it. Um, I literally just watched the movie a couple of hours ago, but still, the main character is this young Korean woman, and it just shows her like really struggling just to make rent, and then as she like travels or tries to escape the zombie outbreak, you do see so much inequality, so many characters talking about like money problems and so many things, and she has a very complicated relationship with her boyfriend, and supposedly her boyfriend runs into the man who claims to be her father, and they both go off looking for her in the middle of this whole zombie outbreak. You could definitely say that all this political view is a very unusual pairing for the compared to the first movie, but at the same time, the more you think about it, the more it actually pairs very well. Just because in the last movie, obviously the main protagonist there, he was a businessman, and he was trying to get him and his daughter out of there, and they were on a train that was leaving whatever city he was in. You never know, maybe it was close to Seoul Station. So you could say that Train to Busan represents the one percenters that were getting out, right, as the getting was good, and Seoul Station shows all the people who they were willing to step on and just throw out of the way. And in Train to Busan, there's a number of characters who literally push people out of the way and throw them out of the way. So Seoul Station is really about the people who I guess I could say they would easily like step on or ignore or push out of the way if they really need to. Also, the way that Seoul Station, I feel like, also kind of is a good little polar yin yang kind of opposite. Not trying to say anything about Asian culture, but still, it's a good little negative kind of ending compared to the positive ending of Train to Busan. Um, so I don't know. I do like that aspect as well. I'm not gonna say what the ending is. Just it's kind of rough. So all in all, Soul Station is a very interesting movie. I like the message and the tones it's trying to set, but unfortunately, yet again, I'm gonna have to bring it up. The CGI animation, in my opinion, really is a mood killer. Just because it really feels like, I don't know, I feel like something is being lost in all this like animation. Usually animation can be like honestly in some cases better than live action, but like I've already said, obviously they just produced this film just as a promotional kind of thing, possibly when the DVD came out or possibly when the movie came out, just to really get people going. And odds are they were on some kind of tight budgets and possibly even tight production schedules. So they may have like rushed it to a degree, and I feel like that rush really made the animations in here struggle, and just really it just could have been better. And I feel like it doesn't have the same because of that. It just does not have the same emotional impact as Train to Busan. So I would definitely say watch Train to Busan. Soul Station's not bad, but like in comparison to Train to Busan's way better. Okay, so the final movie in the Train to Busan franchise, for now at least, would have to be Pensella? Pensella? I have no idea how to pronounce it. I will put it up, like, right here in the video. You guys can feel free to, like, try to pronounce that however you want. But this movie, this movie, wow, talk about taking a left turn, compared to the other movies in this franchise. First off, I just want to say that I feel like all zombie movies out there all definitely bring something to the table. Train to Busan, especially in this franchise, Train to Busan, the original, it was very much a heartfelt story, like I've already said, about a father and his daughter. Seoul Station was definitely a political statement. This movie, I mean, it was basically like what Army of the Dead was. It's the Korean version of Army of the Dead, in my opinion. Okay, so the reason I'm comparing this movie to Army of the Dead is because it has a very similar setup. You have a main character in this time around who is former military, who's haunted by his past, and is hired by a very mysterious man. Well, not really mysterious in this case. It just seems like he's some kind of underground gangster or something like that. But he's hired by this person to go into a city that's been overrun with zombies and basically bring back an entire truckload of cash, essentially, and meet up with somebody who could potentially screw him over. Overall, this really entertains me in the dumb, fun action movie kind of way. Even though, like I said, that makes it a very big left turn from the other two movies that, like I already said, were trying to be either very heartfelt or political. And this one's just like, no, let's get a guy in there who's ex-military with a gun, and let's have some fun. So, it's just that. It's a dumb, fun, good time, with lots of car chases, amazingly, that are on insane kind of level, same kind of insane levels as like the Fast and Furious movie franchise. So it's a crazy cool good time where you have some awesome zombie killing action. So if you're a big Train to Busan fan, and you were hoping for a full-fledged sequel, that's not in this movie. But at the same time, one thing that I noticed when I first started watching this movie, I believe it may have been co-produced or at least distributed by Shudder, which is a streaming service that mostly handles streaming horror content. Horror. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Don't want to get demonetized. Scary movie content, because I'll find out later. But no, they have a streaming service. They're a production organization. Their bread and butter is just doing scary movies. And I want to say they either co-produced this or they distributed it. I will Google search that in a minute, and I will put that up somewhere in this video, right around here in this video. So I looked it up, and Shudder is a streaming service. They're owned by AMC. They mostly do scary movie content, and they got the exclusive streaming rights to Peninsula, at least for a limited time. And because of that, I feel like they were really trying to orientate this movie towards the American audience, which explains the big action scenes, which explains all the gunplay, which explains the very dumb, fun, action-y nature of this. Because dumb, fun, action-y movies, they sell tickets and they move. And that's, I feel like, what they wanted to do with this movie. Also, I feel like this movie may unfortunately be a 10 Cloverfield Lane kind of situation. I only say that because of it's just because of how different this movie is. Not to mention, it's not directly connected to Train to Busan. When you look this movie up, it comes up under the Train to Busan search, but at the same time, it'll say Train to Busan presents Peninsula or however the heck you pronounce this movie. Peninsula. That's why. Okay, it's called Peninsula. So that's why I'm saying this may be some kind of 10 Cloverfield Lane situation, because they just probably grabbed a movie that already existed and decided, you know what, let's slap the name of a bigger franchise on here, just so that way we're sure we'll make our money back. But yeah, like 10 Cloverfield Lane, I feel like this movie definitely could have stood on its own, and it definitely could have, been its own thing and had its own little following. But at the same time, similar to 10 Cloverfield Lane, I feel like it would have just been a situation of it wasn't connected to Cloverfield. It would have been wound up in the DVD bin at Walmart bin, where someone would look at it and be like, oh yeah, that was a thing 5-10 years ago. Wonder why they never made a sequel. Probably just would have been those kind of situations. But I guess I could say the entire Cloverfield and even Train to Busan series have kind of already turned into that. So overall, the Train to Busan franchise, not bad. if you like zombie movies, then you'll definitely like these movies in one aspect or another. I feel like that to a degree that Train to Busan franchise did very similarly what the Cloverfield franchise did. And that is they touched a little bit on every genre that could exist out there. Only, I guess you could say Train to Busan did it in a much more organized way. At the very least, it's like I bring up the emotional. You have the emotional heartfeltness that happens in Train to Busan, but there's been plenty of zombie moves out there that have done the emotional heartfeltness. Then you have Soul Station, which shows the horror of what happens when people both figuratively and literally turn into monsters that will literally kill each other over just about anything. Then you have Peninsula, which obviously is just a dumb fun action movie, which zombies have also existed as part of for quite a long time as well. You can even make a lot of arguments that it's like half the reason why you have all these heartfelt moments or all these political moments is just so you can have the dumb fun action scenes at the very end and see the characters really show the best of themselves and really show who they have become and how they've changed throughout the movie or franchise in this case. But that's one other big negative to the Train to Busan franchise is there's not a single character in the first movie that pops up in the final movie. But at the same time, that's just because, like I've already said, each of these movies takes a different direction. I believe Soul Station is mentioned in the very first movie. In fact, I think that's actually where the very first movie starts off at, and then it ends at Busan Station, more or less. Okay, guys. Well, that's pretty much everything I have to say about the Train to Busan franchise. Overall, not bad. Really runs the gamut of zombie movies. If you don't like one, you'll definitely like the other one. Train to Busan, in my opinion, is the golden child of the franchise, and Soul Station's kind of the awkward middle child, and Peninsula is just the small one. Is just the baby that's trying to show off and show that it can say something too. And that's everything I have to say. I'm the Nostalgia Kid. I remember it, and you should too.